Nothing Phone 2a can seem like a confusing device and even seem like a downgrade on paper from Nothing's first child, the Phone 1. Plastic exterior, no wireless charging, smaller glyph light areas. Watch this whole video to see if these things truly make it a downgrade and which one is best for you. Let's go. Alright, so let's look at the design. You can definitely tell these two phones come from the same company, but their designs are pretty different. The Phone 1 is more boxy and kind of like an iPhone type design, whereas Phone 2 takes those elements and creates something more unique. Even though Phone 2a has smaller glyph spots, its design feels more full and fleshed out, and it actually has more addressable LEDs than Phone 1, which gives it more functionality in the end. All the elements in Phone 2a stand out from far away, despite not having all the lights spread across the back like Phone 1. Phone 1 uses glass and aluminum for its exterior materials, whereas Phone 2 uses plastic for the rails and the back of the phone. In my personal opinion, I prefer plastic on phones, and I wish more companies still use plastic or a similar type material that is durable, just like plastic. The Phone 2a feels like I don't need a case, and I'm not worried about it cracking or scratching and denting like I was with my Phone 1. I even had two Phone 1s, and the first one got dented and scratched after a couple days of owning it because it slipped out of my pocket, and the second one, it didn't get scratched or dented, but I had to baby it because I was super scared of the fragile aluminum frame catching dents and getting scratched up. This Phone 2a has been dropped and abused for the last couple of weeks, and it's pretty much mint aside from the pre-installed screen protector that's starting to peel up. Overall, both designs look good to me and the build quality is nice on both, but in terms of durability and ease of mind and even the lightness, Phone 2a definitely wins. Phone 2a also features a bigger 6.7-inch display, and it has thinner bezels than even Nothing's flagship phone, Phone 2. You do lose wireless charging, but depending on who you are, all the other flagship quality things might be more beneficial to you at such a cheap price. Alright, so now let's get into the star of the show, the Glyph Lights. As I mentioned, the glyph spots have been reduced with Phone 2a, which is slightly disappointing. However, Phone 2a's glyphs are more functional than Phone 1 due to the updated tech in them, the more addressable LEDs. You can mostly do the same things as Phone 1, like flip to glyph, essential notifications, music visualization, but you do lose the charger indicator and the Google Assistant feedback interactions. Arguably, you gain more important things like glyph timers that show you a visual representation of where the timer is while your phone is face down. And a progress bar that can show you how far a food delivery is or how much time is left on your Google Calendar event. The glyphs on both are pretty close in terms of functionality and usefulness, but the Phone 2a has more room for added functionality through software updates and potential developer adaptation. So the cameras are pretty interesting to me, but before I share my thoughts, I'll let you see some samples from both phones in the same conditions. That way you can form your own opinion before I share mine. And after you see the samples, make sure you pause the video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and then start the video back. Let's go. Alright, so the camera specs are almost exactly the same. The only real differences are the Phone 2a has a 32 megapixel selfie camera and a different image signal processor. In the real world, the differences in quality are negligible, and I think they essentially produce similar quality images. The biggest difference is the way that the photos are processed and developed. Phone 2a tends to produce brighter images and videos, while Phone 1 leans to a more dark image. Phone 2a feels more HDR-y, while Phone 1 feels slightly more natural. In the samples I took, I mostly prefer the photos and videos videos from phone 1, but phone 2a took way better portrait mode shots. Honestly, when it comes to cameras though, it comes down to preference, and in this short comparison, it wasn't scientific or definitive, but the lighting conditions were pretty bad for mid-range phones anyways. So this was just to show how these phones perform in a similar situation, and as you can see, they're pretty close. There's just a slight difference in the tuning, which you can adjust yourself, or you can even use expert mode on both of them to get the shot that you want. Moving on to software, the experience is pretty much the same. Phone 1 has been updated to the latest major nothing update, so it has most of the new stuff like custom folders, Glyph Composer, one hand mode, and even AI wallpapers. Nothing OS is clean and aesthetic looking. It offers a great customization experience with the various widgets that they've developed. The only thing I really hate about Nothing OS is the home screen editing mechanics. I get that they want these phones to feel very close to stock OS, but can we get some better editing mechanics, please? Why should it take me over an hour to set up my home screen when other versions of Androids allow me to do it so much faster just by grabbing multiple apps at a time? They have improved it since the release of phone 1 2 years ago, but they only really changed one thing. Instead of having to drag something to the edge of the screen to go to a next page like this, you now can use another finger, which is way faster, but still not enough. On a side note, I sent a few emails and feedback reports begging them to add external mic support, which wasn't here on phone 2 and even phone 1, and I'm happy to say that they actually added it. I'm not sure if phone 2 actually has it because I don't have it with me right now, and I'm not sure what update the external mic support was in, but it's here on phone 1 and phone 2a. Back when I had the phone 2, I actually really loved the phone and I really enjoyed it, but as a content creator, as somebody who makes videos with this phone a lot, I just couldn't keep it because I needed external mic support. And now that it has that, or potentially has that, I might have to go back to that phone. Multitasking on Nothing phones is decent with quick access to floating windows just by swiping and holding up, but I still hope they add more ways to get into split screen because it's still pretty clunky as it's copying stock OS. Having to go to the task switcher and then only be able to open split screen from the apps that are already open is pretty bad compared to other OSs like One UI and Oxygen OS. We just need more multitasking support from Google and Nothing. In terms of specs, the specs are actually pretty close in terms of raw power, but phone 2a wins in battery size, water resistance rating, screen brightness, and years of software support left. You can go and look at some benchmarks and stuff like that. Phone 2a apparently scores higher depending on what kinds of tests you're doing, but they're really like just right there. The real difference comes in the heat management, which phone 2a is superior on all levels and can last you a longer time in my experience when playing games or doing, intensive things. But overall, in terms of performance, there's not much that sets them apart on the spec sheet other than the battery size. So let's jump into that. Battery life is actually amazing on phone 2a. If there's one thing that makes you choose phone 2a over the phone 1, it definitely has to be the battery life. This phone can easily last a full day and a half with heavy usage, and on minimal days, it can probably last you like 2 days or more. 7 to 8 hours of screen on time is really easy to achieve with this phone. So yeah, in terms of battery life, phone 2a definitely washes phone 1. No contest like Super Smash Bros. Phone 1 has a decent battery life, but it probably caps around 7 hours of screen on time or around 16 to 23 hours of usage. But this of course can vary depending on how you use your phone, so you might be able to achieve more or less than what I'm saying here in this video for both of these phones. Phone 2a also charges slightly faster with 45 watts of maximum power compared to phone 1's 35 watt limit. Going back to performance, they're both smooth and fly through the OS with minimal stuttering. I think phone 1 heats up more easily and can stutter more quickly depending on what you're doing, but the stability when it's not hot seems to be a bit better than phone 2a in my experience. Regardless of all that, they perform well in daily tasks, and I personally wouldn't have any issue using both of them as my daily drivers for normal things. Gaming is really similar for both of them in terms of power, but like I said earlier, phone 2a just has better thermal management and allows for stable play longer than phone 1. But yeah, phone 2a comes with some subtle upgrades that you won't necessarily feel in your daily usage, but they could impact your overall experience in the long term. Whichever one of these phones you choose, I think you'll most likely have a good time. The only thing that really makes both of them hard to recommend, especially in my area, Toronto, Canada, is that you can find other flagships for around the same price of both of these phones. Phone 2a is being sold for around 600 Canadian on Facebook Market right now, and around 500 something before taxes and shipping at different stores. For 5 to 600, you can probably get a 256 gig or a 512 gig if you're lucky, Nothing phone 2, which is a better phone than both of these phones. Or you can probably get a base model S24, a Google Pixel 8, Pixel 7 Pro, all the other Pixels that are relevant right now, the S23 Plus, S22 Ultra, S21 Ultra, Z Fold 3, honestly even a Pixel 8 Pro if you look hard enough. And I mentioned so many good phones that you can potentially get for around that price, and I didn't even mention any iPhones yet. But if you're not familiar, there's plenty of flagship quality iPhones that you can get right now for around $600 secondhand. So although I love both of these phones and I love what Nothing is doing, it can be really hard to recommend them over other phones depending on where you live and if these phones are being sold officially in your country for a good price. If you can find phone 1 or phone 2A for around 300 to 400 Canadian, then I think that's a pretty good price compromise for you, the buyer. Might not be for the seller though. But yeah, that is all for this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we out. Peace.